Alright, so let's discuss tone questions. And I think tone questions are quite hard. Previously it used to be just simply vocabulary words. If you knew the vocab, it was fine. But they often ask you tone with tone versus mood, right? And I think this is kind of tricky, but just think that tone basically sets the mood, right? You use a certain tone to set the mood of the story. I'm not sure if they're gonna split hairs like this, these little things, but I think it's good to know. Now, on the new SATs, they really don't talk about, they don't give you tone questions directly. That's what I noticed is very strange. But they still do ask you tone questions. It's just in different words, right? And I'll discuss that in a little bit. So let's just go through a bunch of examples to actually discuss this. So it says, trolls are the devils of the online world who wreck Twitter feeds or message boards with words disguised as rocks, from racist or sexist comments to rape or death threats. They use anonymity as an invincible shield. The most dedicated of trolls often go beyond the digital world and bring their campaign of terror into the real world by weaseling out addresses and phone numbers. Okay, so you could tell right away this definitely has a negative tone, right? And if you can't see where I'm getting negative tone from, I mean, look at the word devils over here. Trolls are devils. That's not a good thing. And then they wreck. They're doing some damaging, and they, you could, I guess, kind of neglect the comments, but it says they go beyond the digital world to bring campaign of terror. These people do bad things, right? And weaseling out, it's not a positive thing. You're kind of avoiding something, or avoiding something that is being confronted at you by using some kind of excuse. So it definitely sounds negative. Now, the question says, author's overall tone is, and they give you this on the ACTs and on the SATs. And on the SATs, what I noticed is they'll actually give it to you in a writing question too. It's because the new SAT, basically new SAT's writing section is reading included, right? So it's a lot tougher. So they actually ask you a question that says, how can you continue this tone, right? So I think this tone will be very important for you to improve your score. So let's look at this. I said it's very, very negative. Now, could it be scholarly? No. Scholarly would be academic, right? It wouldn't fit over here. Cynical is negative, right? So we'll keep that. Critical is negative, okay? Pensive. If you don't know what pensive is, pensive, you could just think of the root pen, P-E-N, right? Or I think in Spanish, pensar means to think. Pensive means becoming very serious, right? Maybe he is serious, but pensive also means thoughtful. So it doesn't fit over here. Conversational means you're just talking, right? I did this and he did that, and it really doesn't fit over here. So you have two close answers. What can you pick from? What's the difference between cynical and critical? They're very, very close. Okay. Cynical is somebody who's really, it's very negative, but they really doubt the world, or they doubt the good of people. They just don't believe in anything, right? They criticize everything. You're right, but they just have a lot of doubt about the whole world. Right? That's a cynic, right? No matter how good you do, they're negative, right? That's a cynical person. Critical is saying negative things, right? In this case, critical would be the better answer because he's not being cynical. There's no good in here that this person reduces, right? If there was a lot of good things and then all of a sudden it starts talking about all those good things are actually bad, then it would be cynical, right? But the correct answer in this case would be C. Alright, so let's look at this one. This one says, I get that many animal behavior studies conclude that monkeys are smarter than dogs. Yet, as a dog trainer, I find myself hard-pressed, right, to wholly agree with such an absolute statement. Dogs do think and reason. And what exactly is the definition of smart anyway? Okay, so now, the overall tone of this paragraph is best described. Make sure you note this, right? It's not exact. They always say best, or most closely, or most nearly, those kind of phrases, right? So what do you think the tone in this passage is? And right away, this is what's known in reading as a concession. It says, I get that. Meaning, yeah, I get your point. That's called the concession. Watch my lecture on literary techniques. I think that'll really help. Yet as a dog trainer. So this guy's a pro. Why does it say yet as a dog trainer? Is this another literary technique thing? Or not literary technique necessarily. He's just establishing himself as a, hey, I have authority in this. I'm a dog trainer. I know what I'm talking about. right? But it says, I find myself hard pressed. Hard pressed means, this is kind of a push for me, right, to agree on this. So which one of these tone words that we have over here do you think is the answer? Now, this is simply a vocabulary question. Okay, so condescending means looking down at somebody, right? You think you're better than that person, right? It doesn't work over here because, yeah, I know what you're saying, but he's not belittling the person, right? Didactic has to do with teaching or didactic. Baffled means you're confused. Skeptical means you're dubious or doubting. And evasive means you're avoiding the issue. Which one do you think is the answer? And I just already told you, I find myself hard pressed. I find it difficult to agree. I can't really agree. And he's saying, what is smart in quotations? Right? Means what is smart? I don't know what this is. So the best answer would be D. Skeptical. Okay, so let's do another one. As a journalist, and I just told you that when they point out as a journalist, right? The whole point of this is to establish authority, and that's usually an answer choice, right? So they say as a journalist, as a scientist, as an economist. The only reason they're really doing that is to establish authority, to say, hey, I know what I'm talking about. In any case, so it says, as a journalist, I believe that in the freedom of speech and expression guaranteed by our Constitution. But the behavior of trolls do not border on the side of free speech. Trolling belongs in the realm of bullying. After all, bullies and trolls have the same repertoire. Repertoire means, they do the same set of skills, or the same thing, right? Same thing, skill sets. They use violent threats, sexual harassment, homophobic comments, and discriminatory remarks. The overall tone of the passage of the paragraph is best described as what? Okay? This guy, how does he sound? Does he seem like, I'm absolutely angry? This is terrible. What he does is says, yeah, I know you have freedom of speech. I know that. I believe in the Constitution. But they're saying that trolls are really not free speech, what they're saying. It's actually bullying. That's what the trolls are doing. They're bullies. It's not free speech, right? And it says they're the same thing. Trolls and bullies are the same thing. They behave in the same way, right? So how is this guy's attitude? Ecstatic means extremely high energetic or happy, right? Tempered, I'll come back to. Sardonic means same thing as sarcastic. Evasive means you're avoiding the issue. Indignant means absolutely angry, right? Now, the only one I didn't go over, tempered, is the answer, and I put this on purpose, okay? A lot of people think temper has to do with angry. But temper on the ACTs and SATs can mean to mitigate something. Oh, you could temper the crowd. Let's say the crowd's really angry, we have to temper them. It means pacify them, calm them down. But if you're tempered, right? If it's a tempered remark, means it's controlled, right? And how does the passage sound like? It sounds very controlled, right? He doesn't seem like he's going off the rails and just, saying trolls are the devil, they're horrible. He says, we have freedom of speech, but I have to say trolls are not really acting in that way. They're just bullies, right? And that's why the best answer would be B. A lot of kids would actually pick E. But indignant means extremely angry, especially because of some injustice, right? So let's say one of your classes got, no homework, but the same class, got a ton of homework from another teacher because, just because, arbitrarily, right? Then you guys would be indignant. Indignant means angry because of something unjust, right? So the best answer for this tone question would be tempered.